Did you know? Metroid was originally
No.
called Space Hunter. This term can still be seen in the game's instruction booklet where it refers to bounty hunters as space hunters. According to a developer interview in the Japanese magazine Nintendo Dream, Nintendo wanted to use the term bounty hunter but couldn't rewrite the text in time for the game's release. They later settled on the name Metroid, which came from combining the words metro, as in a metro subway, and android, which is strange considering the game's protagonist, Samus Aran, isn't an android. That said, Samus's identity wasn't fully realized until partway through the game's development. Her gender was decided after developers said, "Hey, wouldn't it be kind of cool if it turned out that this person inside the suit was a woman?" Samus's physical appearance in Super Metroid was based on the actress Kim Basinger. Her second name, Aran, came from soccer player Pele, whose real name was Edison Arantes do Nascimento. Samus was referred to as a he in the instruction booklet, though this may have been a cover-up to ensure the end reveal was shocking. Samus originally had unique animations for walking left and right, rather than having the same animation mirrored for both directions. These unused sprites are actually still in the game's data. Samus's movement also went through some changes. At first, the developers thought she moved too slow on screen. They increased her speed, but this increase made it hard to maneuver through small areas and on small platforms. Thus, the environments were made larger to compensate, resulting in the expansive labyrinths the series is known for. Samus's iconic design, dressed in the round-shouldered Varia suit, didn't debut until Metroid 2: Return of Samus. In the first Metroid, the different suits that Samus equips, the Varia suit and the Power suit, were the same shape but had different colors. The Game Boy's visuals lacked color, so for Metroid 2, these suits were redesigned so players could tell them apart. Also, the name Varia suit was a mistranslation from Japanese, and was meant to be called Barrier suit, as stated in Metroid's instruction booklet. In Super Metroid, Samus initially appeared naked when she died. However, the developers gave her clothes to avoid controversy outside of Japan. Samus also spoke as she died, but the voice was removed for sounding too sexual. Super Metroid's title screen was also changed during development. The graphics for this can be pulled from the game's ROM to reveal the original title, Metroid. The Super Metroid boss Crocomire was planned to appear in Metroid Zero Mission. Not only are the boss's graphics present, but Crocomire's behavior is partially programmed into the game as well. A Metroid fan called TrueNar68 created a hack for the game that fleshes out Crocomire's movements to resemble the Super Metroid boss fight. There's also a plethora of Crocomire concept art from Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, suggesting Crocomire was meant to appear in that game as well. The boss Kraid was set to make an appearance in Metroid Prime. The graphics for Kraid resembled the Super Metroid design, but included metal prosthetics similar to those found on Meta Ridley. As a result, fans dubbed the boss Meta Kraid. There's also concept art for Kraid without metal prosthetics, showing it had multiple stages of development before being dropped completely. There's also an unused ice boss in Metroid Prime. Its color scheme, spikes, and the position of its tusks resemble the Sheegoth, so it's possible this creature is somehow related to them. It's also possible that the boss Thardus may have replaced this ice monster. You face Thardus in a cold climate, but some early animations show Thardus as a lava-themed boss. Thardus could have been altered and repurposed in order to fill the void by removing the ice boss. Some of the roars made by the bosses in Super Metroid greatly resemble roars from the Godzilla movies. When Crocomire dies, it lets out what seems to be the roar of Titanosaurus. And the same roar seems to be used again when the boss Phantoon is hit. Dragon's cry also resembles the cry of the Godzilla monster, Anguirus.
Oh, I know that one.
There are many similarities between the Metroid and Alien franchises. These similarities have been acknowledged by Metroid's co-creator, Yoshio Sakamoto. He stated that the first Alien movie influenced the creation of Metroid, and that his team thought the presentation in Alien was a good match for the Metroid world they had already put in place. In addition to basic design influences from the Alien franchise, some events from the first 4 Metroid games resemble events from the first 4 Alien movies. Here are just a few examples. After hatching, the first forms of the alien xenomorphs and the first forms of the Metroids both latch onto the heads of their victims, and both species have multiple stages of metamorphosis. Both Metroid and Alien have female lead protagonists, both of which narrowly escape explosions and are shown half-clothed at the ending. The boss Ridley also shares his name with Alien movie director Ridley Scott. In the sequel to Alien, Aliens, Ripley travels to the source of the alien xenomorphs, the moon LV-426. In Metroid 2, Samus travels to the source of the Metroids, SR-388. Both stories center around the heroines attempting to exterminate the alien threat in their universe. Aliens introduces the Queen Alien, Metroid 2 introduces the Queen Metroid. In the third Metroid game, Super Metroid, the Key Hunters have the ability to spit acid, and in Alien 3, a xenomorph also spits acid. In the fourth Alien movie, Alien Resurrection, Ripley is cloned and the embryo of an alien queen is extracted from her body. The cloning process unites alien DNA with Ripley's, turning her into a human-alien hybrid. In the fourth Metroid game, Metroid Fusion, Samus becomes infected with with a virus, but is later cured with a vaccine. The vaccine uses Samus's cellular sample taken from the remains of the baby Metroid that she came into contact with in Super Metroid, and this vaccine ultimately gives her Metroid-like powers. Weyland-Yutani Corporation clones xenomorphs from Ripley's embryo to use as weapons. Similarly, the Galactic Federation uses the baby Metroid's cells to clone a series of Metroids, and both labs end up being destroyed by Ripley and Samus. Xenomorphs don't attack Ripley as she's a human-alien hybrid and they think she's one of them. With the exception of the Omega Metroid, the Metroids don't attack Samus, presumably for the same reasons. It's possible that Metroid 2 is going to receive a DX remake, much like Link's Awakening DX. In the April 1998 issue of the German club Nintendo magazine, a full-color image of Metroid 2 was shown. It's not known if the image was representing a game in development or if it was simply a mock-up. A fan remake of Metroid 2, known as Another Metroid 2 Remake, sparked a comment from Retro Studios artist Benjamin Sprout, saying, "I've always thought it'd be awesome to remake Metroid 2. A group of us at Retro even discussed doing it as a side project at one point. To our knowledge, the idea never progressed. There are lots of unused test rooms in Metroid Other M. Most are fairly basic and lack detail, but one of them stands out. This room is actually from Ninja Gaiden 2, where you fight the boss Resetsu at the top of a building. The background tower is no longer present in the level,
Ninja
but the
Gaiden 2,
structure
the
is mostly
reboot.
intact.
Okay.
There's a room shown in the trailer for Metroid Fusion, where Samus uses a power bomb against zombie scientists. This part of the game was removed, but the room itself is still in the game's code. The crystals from Wario Land 4 can also be found in the game's code. This is because Metroid Fusion was made using Wario Land 4's game engine. In Metroid Fusion, when you unclog the exhaust fans in Sector 1, there's a secret hidden in the blockage. If you look to the top left corner of the rubble, you can see a partly disguised Nintendo GameCube. That's all for today, but don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Make sure you also check out DIdYouKnowGaming.com, where we post gaming trivia every single day. If you liked this video, check out our other videos. Also, be sure to check out the weekly Tube Show videos. One a day keeps you happy, healthy, and mentally stable.
I'm gonna watch one more. Why not?
Did you know Kirby's design was originally a placeholder for another character and wasn't intended to be used at all? Kirby's creator, Masahiro Sakurai, became fond of Kirby's simple design and decided to make him the star of the game. At the time, the game was titled Twinkle Popo, and Kirby's name was Popopo. This was actually referenced in Kirby Mass Attack, which is set in the Popopo Islands. In a Game Informer interview with Shigeru Miyamoto, Miyamoto stated that the Kirby name was partly chosen because of John Kirby, who defended Nintendo in a lawsuit against Universal over similarities between the movie King Kong and the arcade game Donkey Kong. The name Kirby was on a list of potential names for the characters, and the developers thought it would be funny if John Kirby had a connection with their cute character. Another thing that influenced choosing the name Kirby was that Kirby's a soft, cute character. Cute Japanese characters often have soft-sounding names to match their appearance. Miyamoto thought that the juxtaposition of a cute character with a harsh-sounding name like Kirby was also funny. For a while, Kirby's color scheme was undecided. Sakurai wanted Kirby to be pink, but Miyamoto wanted him to be yellow. Ultimately, Nintendo decided Kirby should be pink. Miyamoto's yellow Kirby was used as the default color for Player 2 whenever there's multiple player-controlled Kirbys on screen. Before Kirby's final color scheme was chosen, Nintendo of America localized Kirby's Dream Land. They were confused as to whether Kirby was pink or yellow and didn't know how to represent him on the box art. They decided to play it safe and make Kirby white like he appears in the game. And speaking of box art, several Kirby games had their covers changed in the West. The Japanese versions all show Kirby smiling or neutral, but the North American box arts all show Kirby angry. It's thought these changes were made to compensate for cultural differences between Japan and North America. Kirby's Epic Yarn wasn't originally a Kirby game at all. It started off as a game called Fluff of Yarn and starred Prince Fluff. The game was reworked over several months to fit more in line with the Kirby universe. Kirby took the lead role, and Prince Fluff was pushed to the side, becoming Kirby's partner. Kirby's Return to Dreamland also had an unusual development period. Development began shortly after Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards was completed, meaning Return to Dreamland had a development cycle of 11 years. The style of the game started off very similar to Crystal Shards, with 2D 2D movement on a 3D environment. It also supported 4 characters. This is the version of the game we saw at E3 2005 and was set to be released that same year. The game was scrapped due to problems with the 4-player mechanics. The second attempt at making a new Kirby game was a sort of open-world 3D platforming game. The developers didn't feel the game achieved the level of quality they were hoping for, and it never reached completion. The third attempt returned to the side-scrolling roots of Kirby, but had the graphical style of a pop-up book. The developers ultimately realized that the previous attempts failed because of the focus on multiplayer, so they decided to refocus their efforts on creating a fun single-player game. This final attempt used some elements from the failed experiments and became Kirby's Return to Dreamland. In Kirby's Return to Dreamland, if you take the first letter from the title of every level in the game besides the final level, Another Dimension, they will spell out the word crowned.
Yeah,
the game's
I know
final boss wears a crown, and a theme called Crowned plays during the final boss battle in the game's extra mode. The French version of the game also has a hidden word, where the first letter of each of the levels spells parfait, which means perfect in French. Kirby's Dream Collection also has a hidden word. In the game's challenge mode, the levels are named Happiness Hall, Apricot Atrium, and Last Land. Taking the first letter from each level spells out HAL, a self-referential nod from the game's developers, HAL Laboratory. In Kirby Canvas Curse, the first letter from the title of each level, besides the game's final level, spells out Rainbow. Something similar occurs in Kirby's Adventure, where the levels spell out Vib-G Yor. When read backwards, it says Roy G. Biv, which is an acronym for remembering the colors of the rainbow. Kirby 64, the Crystal Shard's fifth world, holds a rather bleak secret. You might notice that it bears a striking resemblance to Earth, but is entirely frozen over. The world has factories full of robots, but with no biological operators in sight. Nintendo has said that the inhabitants of the planet all had to move, presumably because of the climate. This has led fans to speculate that Shiver Star is actually a post-apocalyptic Earth. It's not sure what Nintendo's intention was when making Shiver Star, but it could be some sort of statement on climate change, or possibly even a suggestion that Kirby takes place in our own universe. In the Spring Breeze fight with King Dedede and Kirby Superstar, you can see Toad, Mario, Luigi, and Birdo making a cameo appearance in the stands. What makes this cameo even more interesting is that these aren't the only characters that were meant to be shown.
Peach?
Scrolling outside of the viewable area of the screen will show Princess Peach, Poppy Bros Jr., and Bowser. Princess Peach was partially viewable, and this is probably why she was moved to be fully viewable in the stands of Kirby Superstar Ultra for the DS. Some other secrets and Easter eggs include Kirby dancing on the pause screen of Kirby's Dreamland if you wait for 20 seconds, and a crude drawing of a naked woman in the background of the level Red Canyon. There's also an unused Waddle Doo enemy in Kirby's Block Ball, where the Waddle Doo's death animation shows his eye bursting out of his head. Kirby's creator, Masahiro Sakurai, also provided the voice of King Dedede in Kirby 64 and Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Hey, that's all for today, but don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Make sure you also check out DIdYouKnowGaming.com, where we post gaming trivia every single day. If you like this video, check out our other videos. And don't you know it, I'm gonna plug Game Grumps. You should go watch us play video games. It's funny. We played a lot of Kirby games. Oh, and they're good.
If you say so, Eager Raptor. If you say so.